Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Robbie, and this is The Unhinged Father. It's a podcast for normal folks looking for some humor, connection, relatability, or those who just like the sound of my sultry voice. A place where we can embrace aiming to be better people, but can accept that we will never get there. And that's okay. We're okay. I'm not some enlightened asshole here to tell you how amazing and perfect my life is, and then convince you to buy my how-to guide on how to make your shit not stink. I'm right here in the mud with you, working towards a better life, extending a hand out along the way. Now let's go ahead and jump into this week's episode. All right, everyone, welcome to the show. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. We are one day post-election at the time that you're listening to this. The time I'm recording it, it's actually election day right now. And I don't know about you guys, but me personally, I am so ready to get past all the craziness of election season. Every 4 years, it seems like I'm saying the same thing. And it seems like every 4 years, nothing ever changes. We always talk about how we want people to be honest, have integrity, to be able to just see what the truth is. But every year, it just seems like we're running into the same thing over and over again. And this year's no different. And actually, this year, it seems like it's with the advent of new technology, AI, and just everything like that, I'm able to see all of the manipulation that goes on with election on both sides of the aisle, right? It's not just Democrat, it's not just Republican. Both sides of the aisle, there is a huge bias. The media doesn't tell the truth, and it's just crazy to look at some of the headlines that come up during election season and see just this absolute, twisting of what reality is. You'll read headlines and then you'll watch a clip and you'll be like, that's not what happened. They're completely misrepresenting what someone said, or they're completely misrepresenting an event or something like that. And it's just, I'm really tired of it. I'm happy that election season's coming to the end, and one way or the other, we're going to have a new president here in the next, I don't know. Well, technically we won't have a new president until January, but we'll have elected someone new to sit in the Oval Office. And, you got to just get out there and vote one way or the other. I posted something on Facebook and Instagram yesterday. Just posted that picture of the I voted sticker. And I did vote. I voted for a long time now. And I just always think it's really funny when you get this virtue signaling from people on social media that say, get out and vote. Doesn't matter who you vote for, just vote. And then in the same swipe, turn around and call their political opposites idiots, morons, threats to America, all of this shit. They're just real hypocrisy that I see. And it kind of pisses me off when I see people that I know or friends, family members who will say this stuff like, hey, this pictures of I voted, get out and vote, do what you can. But then if you disagree with anything that they say, they just completely come down on you, call you an idiot, call you a moron, and all of the other things that I've said. They think you're a complete shithead. And it doesn't matter what you disagree with them on. For me personally, when it comes to politics, I actually hate politics in general, or like the politics of everything. I'm more interested in ideology, morality, things like that, things that are really going to impact us as people, as opposed to some of the political games that go on. And I don't want to use the word politically homeless, because I feel like a lot of people are using that now, but I just fall politically into the gray area. There are certain things within different parties that I believe, and I like to look at things more so as at an issues level or at an ideological level, as opposed to looking at from like the political spectrum of what the party is voting for, or what the specific politician is voting for. That's one of the things that I dislike about the two-party system, and it's not going anywhere. I've said it before. I would love to see more diversity in terms of like political ideology coming through, but the political parties aren't going anywhere. We've had the two-party state for, well, I can't tell you exactly when we've had someone other than a Democrat or Republican in, because I'm not that good at history, but I'm sure it was probably sometime in the early 90s or early 90s, early 1900s, probably a Whig or something like that. Anyways, just wanted to kind of get this episode out there after the election, acknowledge the fact that it's kind of a crazy time, a divisive time. People are at each other's throats, and it seems like society is going to crumble one way or the other. Everyone's worried that whether Kamala wins or whether Trump wins, that the other side's going to go out, riot, and people are going to go nuts and try to change whatever the election ends up being. And for me, I'm not going to do that. We're going to go out. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to vote. And if my candidate wins, great. If my candidate doesn't win, then, that it is what it is. There's not much that I can do about it except try to continue to live my life the best that I possibly can. That doesn't mean that I think people should be politically inactive. I think that people should be politically active. I just wish there was a way for us to voice our own ideological concerns or our ideas, or take things from like an issue side and have like a open and frank conversation and have an actual voice within the political sphere and kind of decide where the country's going. But the way I view it now is like the country's already this big machine that's already built, and nothing that we say is going to change the trajectory of that. There's already so many different institutions and policies and procedures in place, so much bureaucracy, that to really make any change, you're going to have to really tear it down and rebuild in order to have significant changes. Sorry, I just realized I said change a couple of times in there, kind of like the significance to the passage of time. Try not to do that, but when I'm just, kind of free balling it like I do with these podcasts, it happens. I go back and listen and hear that I say the same word over and over again. It's like I get a hot topic word and just comes out constantly over and over again. Trying to work on that, trying to make sure I don't do that, so that way your listening experience a little bit better. But anyways, I just wanted to acknowledge all of these things that I just talked about. It is politics season. I hate it. It's election season. Seriously dislike it. I just opened up my mailbox and essentially it was like the Harry Potter mailbox and fireplace. It just all of these political ads coming through, spitting through my mailbox into my face, almost knocked me over. We're almost at the end of it. One more day, and then we'll have to probably sit around and wait for a couple of weeks for them to figure out who the fuck won. And people will still be going back and forth fighting for the fact that, the elections weren't fair, or someone cheated, or we want to recount. I'm sure that that's going to be going on for a while. And then it'll be 4 years of 50% of the nation fighting the person who's in the White House, while the other 50% are just like, the other 50% are stupid. They're dumb. And that's really where I wanted to get into this episode. That's really I wanted to take this episode a little bit more, is not just sit here and bitch and moan about how the political season can be quite a drain on me and the people that I care about, and how you don't want to necessarily give away which way you're voting, one way or the other. You don't want to have these arguments with people. And you also, for me as a parent, this is kind of a harder part for me, is like as a parent, with a kid who's just in public school, and now he's starting to make friends with other kids, and we're starting to make friends with the other parents. It's like politics could be a huge divide. And you're like, do I tell people who I like, who I don't like? Like, this could cause a big rift. They may not like us. They may think we're fucking crazy because we have, vote one way or the other. And you got to make a choice. You have to vote one way or the other, or just not vote at all. And I'm not necessarily a huge fan of anyone. I think all politicians are full of shit personally, but you got to vote one way or the other. And I usually try to vote with what I think is going to be best for me and my family. And that's what I did this year. That's what I'll continue to do in the future. I don't hate anyone based on what their political views are. I definitely can disagree with them. And if it does come down to someone who's trying to push something that's super detrimental to me or dangerous for my kids, like, I'm going to fight like hell against that. But like I said, I don't have this hatred in my heart besides just the general hatred and disdain for humanity that I have most of the time. Like I said, I pretty much dislike everyone. I'm like South Park. I'm an equal opportunity despiser. And moving away from the politics and everything that's going on right now, just what I wanted to portray in this message, or the little, I guess you would say the message of hope or positivity, or what I'm trying to take out of this election season is actually a message that I got from church. Now, I'm going to share some of this with you right now. This is not going to be a religious message. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to drop to your knees and praise the Lord. and accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. I'm not going that route, but I do think that the message that we got in church is pretty applicable to this. And our pastor did a great job of actually specifically aligning it with the election and election season. And so I wanted to share it with you guys, or at least pieces of this message, because I think that it's super helpful to think about. And the message that we've been getting, or I guess you could say the series that we've been on, is like unmasking the monsters. He, went in with like Halloween, the whole October season, different internal issues that we have, and then affiliating them with certain monsters, the werewolf, Frankenstein, the mummy. And then this week we went into vampires, and he really brought it in with this political aspect, because he said that a lot of times we can be, like, we all know people that can be vampires in our lives. They suck the life out of us. They suck joy. They just really drain you, make you feel terrible. And, we can take great offense to those people. And it's always us kind of looking and pointing out at them and saying that they're the monsters. They're draining everything from us. But in reality, vampires create vampires, right? And if we allow other people to suck the life, suck the joy, and suck everything out of us, we're going to turn around and be those same people that turn around and suck the joy and suck the life out of others, whether it's our kids, our friends, our family. If we continually allow these outside influences to suck and drain our energy away, we're going to eventually try and do the same thing to other people. Now, you might not. You might be someone who can be completely immune to the soul-sucking season of election season and of the super politically active, or someone who, you can't fucking get around with them without them saying like Trump this or Kamala that, right? If you're one of those people, then good on you. I'm glad that you're able to do that. But for most people, it's a draining time. And when I know that when I'm drained, when I'm not feeling energized, when I feel like the life's been drained out of me, I can be a lot more abrasive, a lot more cold, a lot more hard-hearted, and not necessarily be nice to my friends. Or I could be a little bit more terse with my kids, or I can be, roll my eyes at my wife. Whatever those symptoms are, they come from having the life sucked out of us from these quote unquote vampires. But we go around and we do the same thing. We turn around, like creates like, vampire creates vampire. And if we allow other people to create this in us, if we buy into it, and we create all these, things that offend us, and we continue to basically he described it as like building a fence. Someone offends us, we put up a board to block them out, keep them out. Someone offends us, we put a board to block them out. And eventually you've got this entire fence that's built that's really keeping you locked within. And instead of, you're trying to think that all of the monsters are outside of the fence, but really you're trapped inside of this fence with the monsters in there, because you're creating a lot of these feelings of disdain or hatred or anger, whatever it is. You're allowing other people's actions and other people's words to really fester within you, and you become this vampire. You become this monster. You allow what was, tormenting you, or what's making you feel terrible. You allow yourself to become that. And I think it's a good message to have, especially during this time of divisiveness, this society that we have that really is divided. I know that it's always been 50-50 Republican, Democrat. Every election, it's essentially that, right? 50% of the country is Democrat, 50% of the country is Republican. Of course, there's intermingling in there, and there's the people who live in the gray, like myself, who actually like to think for themselves and not just fall within party lines. But that's essentially how it's always been. The elections are always relatively close, and we've just allowed it to become this society where if someone disagrees with you, they are a monster. If someone doesn't believe the way that you do, they're a monster. If someone dares to vote in a different direction than you, without even looking at what their motivations are or why they're voting that way, or having a conversation with them, you deem them an idiot, a moron, a threat, a monster. And that's what needs to change. The two-party system, like I said, I don't think that's ever going to change, but the way that we respond as Americans, the way that we respond as people, that's really what needs to change. I don't hate people because of their because of their political ideologies. I don't hate someone if they vote for Kamala. I don't hate someone if they vote for Trump. I don't hate someone if they don't vote for some bill. I don't hate someone if they do vote for a bill to increase my taxes. May not be happy that I have to pay extra taxes, but I'm not necessarily here hating on them. Now, we do have to live with our choices. That's the thing, is that if you are voting for someone and you don't like the way that it's going and you continue to vote in that direction because it falls within whatever your political lines, that's something that you have to come to grips with, and that we all have to come to grips with, is that you also have to take accountability for the fact that you are voting for someone. You're voting for some sort of ideology. And, if you don't like the way things are, then you need to make sure that you're making your voice heard as much as you can with your vote. You need to change it up. You need to vote for someone different. You need to look into things deeper. But the divisiveness is really the issue that I have with this whole political season. I go on social media and I just see people attacking others. And there's people that I know that I went to college with, or that I went to high school with, or that I'm friends with, right? And it's actually really difficult, still being friends with certain people, and you see them in person and they're really friendly to you, and you guys talk about your kids or old times or whatever, all that good stuff. And then all of a sudden they post something on social media that completely makes you feel like they hate you, like they despise you. They think that you're an idiot or a moron, or that you're a threat. And I'm sure that if you see them in person and you talk to them and you had a conversation about them, that they wouldn't say that to your face, or that they don't actually believe those things, but they just lump you in with everyone else. And that's the problem with lumping in 50% of the society, is that you assume that all of the people that you're close with think the way that you do. And I do this as well. I assume that people think the way that I do, mostly because I'm fucking right. But I assume that they believe the way that I do, and I assume that they think the way that I do, but that's a bad assumption. That's not a good assumption to make. People think differently, people vote differently, they have different motivations, they have different backgrounds, and until you have that conversation with them, you're not really going to know. And that's where it's hard for me seeing those things, seeing these people that I consider friends or acquaintances posting things on social media that essentially call me an idiot, essentially say that I'm a threat to America, or that I'm a dumb shit, or it doesn't matter what it is. And like I said, this is on both sides. I could go down the aisle and I have friends on the right and I have friends on the left, and each one of them has probably posted something that differs from the way that I think ideologically in terms of different issues, and calls me an idiot, or calls me a threat, or calls me, whatever, snowflake or Nazi, or any of those things, right? All these labels that are being thrown around just so freely during this time. So where am I going with all this? I don't really know where I'm going with all this. I'm just as lost as everyone else out there. I don't know how to create a solution. I guess the message that I heard, and the message that I'm going to, give out, or the thing that I'm asking from everyone, is just, instead of going out and voting and then hating on what the results are, or being pissed off and calling everyone idiots, is that you just forgive people. You forgive people, you love people, and you just realize that we all are different, and that's a good thing. We don't necessarily want to all think exactly the same. I don't want to be surrounded by people who think like I do. That would be fucking terrible. I can be an absolute crazy person from time to time. I don't want to have people that are as abrasive as I am, or who are always as outspoken as I am. I would like to have a difference of opinions. And the thing is that you just want to make sure that you don't hate those people for that you don't tear them down for that you have a conversation, that you try to understand where they're coming from. Maybe you dig deeper and you see that they vote a certain way because of issues that happened to them when they were a child, and those issues didn't happen to you, and they see that there are problems here, and they have a completely different perspective than you do. And you'll never find that out unless you have that conversation with them. And you may still disagree with them at the end of the day, and that's good. Disagree, have a conversation, and then just be normal human beings after that. Crack a beer, say cheers, give them a hug. We should be able to get along with people that are different from us, and focus more so on the things that matter most, as opposed to the things that divide us. And maybe that's just the internet, social media, clickbait, everything. We all know that, like, what is it? Sex sells, negativity sells. Like, it's way easier to click on a story that's just completely outlandish and negative than it is to find one that's like this good, upbeat, uplifting message. Like, you always hear the stories of like the guy who beat the shit out of an old man on the train or did something like that, but you never hear the story of, like, I don't know, just someone seeing someone that differs from them, giving them a hug or helping them on the train, like the little acts of kindness that happen every single day. And I think that we've lost that. And maybe that's where we can start to focus, is like, look for the little acts of kindness, the little acts of connection that happen throughout the day from people that come from completely different worlds. And we need to set the example. This is going to go more so to the parents on this that are listening to this podcast, is that we always want the best for our kids. And a lot of times when we're voting for stuff, we do it because we think that it's going to be the best for our kids. We want to have the best world for our kids. We want to make sure that we're setting them up for success in the future. And all of us may have different ideas on how to actually get there. But the one thing that we shouldn't differ on is the fact that we are modeling for our children how you interact with other people and how you treat other people. And so at the bare minimum, even if you vote differently, or you want more taxes to go to the schools, or you don't want more taxes to go to the school, or you want, I don't know, all of the hot button topics, abortion rights or trans rights, or any of the other hot button things that divide most of the country right now, at the base level, model for your children what it's like to disagree with someone, but to still treat them with respect and kindness, no matter what. Now, that doesn't mean that you're a pushover, and if someone comes up to you and starts screaming in your face or threatens you with violence, that you just fold over. This completely different situation there. If that's the case, any of you have listened to this show before, I definitely believe in standing up for yourself, having a strong front. Don't confuse being kind and being loving and being caring with being weak. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're a doormat. You can go ahead and stand up for yourself, stand up for your family, but there's a big difference between someone disagreeing with you and someone threatening you. So be the example. Let's all be the example for our kids, for the next generation, on how to treat each other well, how to disagree. Maybe that's what we've lost over a long time. I know every generation talks about how the one that is before them was harder than they were, and the one that's after them are weaker. You know, me as a millennial, the boomers and the Gen Xers, like, I tell my kids, like, oh, you don't know how hard we had it. They were way meaner than we were. And then, you know, you look at the Gen Zers and the Zoomers and the COVID babies, and you're just like, you guys have it so easy. You guys are wimps, right? I think one of the things that we have lost is understanding how to disagree with people, but how to also still get along with them. And that's my hope. That's where I think that we can get this back and hopefully change society a little bit for the better and make these political seasons just a little bit nicer. I'd love to be able to sit down with someone who disagrees with me, have a conversation, maybe even a heated conversation about it. And then once we're done having that conversation, even if it ends in a stalemate, there's no resolution, that's fine. Let's sit down. Let's have a beer. Let's eat some barbecue. Let's let our kids play. Let's let them have a good time. And then we can still be nice, cordial. There's probably a lot of things that we do enjoy or that we do agree on that we can kind of bond over, as opposed to just focusing on whatever it is divides us. So that's going to do it for this episode today. I feel like I went in a lot of different directions. Sounds like it was probably a little bit more preachy than I wanted it to be. But that's just what was on the top of my mind, especially in this election season. I hope that everyone went out and voted, whichever way you voted. Hopefully it was what you think is right for you and for your family. And hopefully they were educated votes as well. And we'll see what the next couple of weeks are. But my ask of you is just whatever the results are, whoever becomes president, whatever regime takes over, let's do our part to make sure that we're teaching our kids, teaching the next generation how to be kind, how to be considerate, and how to disagree, but still be good, decent human beings. That's going to do it I think that's going to do it for today. Hope that y'all enjoyed it. Have a good rest of the week. And hopefully we make it through. That's it for this week's episode. I appreciate y'all being here with me today. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasting needs met. If you feel the show deserves it, leave a 5-star review. It really helps. For more content, follow me on social media. As the show continues to evolve and grow, I have a big ask for all of my unhinged fans. Each week, I'm going to ask you to share the episode with one person in your life that would relate to or benefit from the message. Click the share episode button and text it to them, email it to them, or send it through social media. Whatever you do, please help spread the word to others. Your support and endorsement is greatly appreciated. In the episode description, you'll find a send me a message button. Use it to suggest topics or share your thoughts on the episode. Just a heads up, I can't see who sent the message or respond in any way, shape, or form. So if you would like a response or you want to be a guest on the show, send me an email at unhinged.father@gmail.com. Thank you for your support. Have a fantastic day. And as always, be good, try hard, do your best.